Hi, Sam. Can you hear me?
Hey, Heiner. Yes, I can hear you. I just woke up about 5 minutes ago. So, hey, you appear frozen, Heiner. I'll be right back.
It's 7:58.
I don't hear any sound. Is there audio?
Heiner, can you hear me? Heiner, can you hear me? I just heard you. Hello, hello?
Hi. Yeah, can you stop this? Sorry, I want to stop. Sorry, Megan. It's a bit messy. I want to chat.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Good to see you. I'll try to get to gallery. I'm on a cafe here. Oh, quite a lot of people. Hey.
Doug, can you hear me?
I can.
Is there any way I can see more than 4 people at once? I know I'm asking for a lot.
Are you on a phone?
Yeah.
No.
So you're going to be doing this all day.
Yeah, on mobile, you're constrained to 4 people per screen, and you got to just keep swiping and sweeping.
Well, the theme for me today is all about mobile, but I just got a new phone and I'm doing everything mobile, and it's a constraint that makes things that I do hard, and at the same time makes other things easier, and it's part of the thing that I have to go through, and I'm trying to enjoy it.
Yeah, Zoom is in mobile. Zoom is in the hard category. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, well, I think having more than 10 people in a room at the same time trying to get anything done is like a bit of gray magic.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, I'll be quiet here.
So Sam, I was sorry to miss your session yesterday synchronously, but I will screen it back later today.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to be in the background, but I just wanted to kind of be with you a little bit. I've got to go out to an event shortly, and I'm preparing for it. So I'm sort of tuning in and just being here energetically. So yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Anna.
Who said that? I can't make out who these people are.
That was cool and Kilby, Colin.
Yeah, I can only see 4 people at once, but it's kind of more intimate this way, so I actually feel like I'm looking at you. So if you said hi.
Hi, Colin.
More like I can wave when there's only 4 people.
Well, there's one person who I can't see who that is, who's right in the middle of my screen. Begins with an H, I think. Who could that be?
Heidi?
It's not. No.
Could be Heidi.
Oh,
She's hiding.
It's Heidi. Heidi. Hi, Heidi.
How many are we? I see 9.
I see 9 too.
We have 11. So it's 6 minutes after the hour, and we could do check-ins, or I was thinking of changing that up a little bit. Harry had sort of queued up a kickoff topic or question for today's unblocking, and I was thinking we'd start with a minute of silence just to sort of plug in, connect, wipe the slate, leave stuff behind, clear the boards, and then I could queue up and Harry could share what he wanted to bring into the session. Harry, do you remember what you wanted to bring into the session? You don't remember what you wanted to bring into the session. I do. So don't worry, I've got your back. So we're gonna let's do 2 minutes, and we'll start now. Ding. Sorry, I don't have one of those fancy bells or computer generated bells or singing bells. So Harry had posted about Friday, and actually, what would probably make the most sense might be for me to find it or not.
How about if we ask Harry whether he now remembers?
We could
and
do
whether
that.
He could actually.
That would be great.
Would you like to introduce it, Harry?
Sure. I had to look it up what I said. I think it's about this post. Isn't it, Doug?
Yep, that's the one.
So this is
With
my
your shoe.
my own wording around what I thought was kind of a meme in the group, and I already got some reactions I see, and I didn't follow it because I've been doing other stuff. And I got some like 8 comments, but these are there are a few memes that come back, and it is the kind of desire for anarchy. Let's not have a structure. That's how it feels for me. And the other thing is, okay, when we do this or that, we go back to the industrial frame. And I think is looking back at it like half a day later, I think, okay, these are more memes than convictions. And I would like to discuss them, whether they are blocks or not. And if they are blocks, we should talk about it. If they're not blocks, we have to become rather clear about what we mean as a group with these things. And with that, I'm complete for the moment, hoping that everybody kind of got the gist of it, and I'm open for questions, and I'll stop sharing.
So I'd love to just sort of share my initial take that where I go is sort of unpacking all the ingredients of the soup you're pointing to, and I find my experience is this tendency to sort of compress a whole bunch of layers and jump directly to there's a group agenda, purpose, or thing missing, and we need to fill in that blank, which to me is sort of the end of a story rather than the beginning of a story. And unpacking it and peeling back the layers, and with what I'm finding to be a growing penchant for the emergent. It starts with each individual and what they feel the pull and the attraction and the interest and center of gravity in. And we're the group as a group is really a phenomena of co-creation of all the people in it. So on a purely emergent basis, all of the individuals involved flow each according to their own compass, and then there can be sort of an emergent collective expression where everybody flowed in the same direction on the same point at the same time for a moment. But that's sort of an emergent result. It's not an affirmative, expressed, declared, constructed, defined thing. And so my experience on Friday was from the previous breadcrumb, which was the session before that where Colin touched on his work. the emergent of Friday was Colin sort of doing a deeper dive into his work. In the intervening time between that expectation being set and Friday, a whole agenda had been added to the soup in terms of the group definition and mission, all sorts of stuff related to group-related decision making, and it was a whole basket of things. So instead of it being escalating, getting to know Colin, getting to know his work, it turned into, building the Empire State Building on top of his work. Now, from an experiential standpoint, for me, that didn't align with my expectation. And my experience of it was that in that leap, without having participated in arriving at those decisions around that being what Friday was going to become, that it became an imposition. It was sort of like, hey, I didn't sign on for that. Like, doesn't mean it can't happen. Doesn't mean I won't choose to go along for the ride. But I'm not arriving in a place where I'm engaged or connected to that. I'm in a, we'll wait and see, and I'll see where it goes and what comes out of it. But I'm not relating to myself as part of the co-generator of that out of the box. And my experience, and I'll finish up on this, but my experience in more and more situations and contexts is the minute you leave behind that progressive, stepwise, emergent, collective, experiential frame of here, now, this minute, what are we co-creating? Where do we want to go? What do we want to do as a we, which is a collective, coherent expression of every individual going, yeah, I'm in. The minute you leave behind sort of the connective tissue and thread of that, energetically, connection-wise, participation-wise, enfranchisement-wise, you risk leaving behind people, like disconnecting and losing mass and energy. And I don't share that from a place of, it doesn't mean all those things that were aspired to be done on Friday may not be meaningful, valuable, important, and need to be picked up and carried and thought about, nurtured into something. But if you lose people en route to doing that, then it's the old paradigm. It's humans doing and getting focused on the results and abstracting the process. And that's the risk. And I'm complete.
So Doug, that triggers something in me. We go too often to this expression, the old paradigm, or the industrial frame, or human being 1.0. And to address it in such way, I think doesn't allow us the discernment to understand what in it is useful and what in it we choose to jettison. By just broad brush jettisoning the entire thing, we end up having to revisit and relearn a number of things which are still useful in 1.0 or the industrial frame. We're kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And I think we need a finer eye with which to look at the current or the past paradigms. I think that we deserve to look at a much finer granularity than just tossing out the old.
I kind of lost you, Doug, somewhere in between, because I was not sure what you were referring to. And I kind of went over your post, Harry, and the first thing that came to my mind is when we are talking with Ken Wilber, he said transcend and include, not throw every old stuff out because it's now we create everything anew. It's more like including in a new way, in a new paradigm, and looking at things like in a new way, and seeing the value of the old stuff, but not in the old frame. And I remember Bettina, who was at the very beginning, she was in here, and when Sam put out, can we agree on something like not quitting? and she said, no, I can't, because I think you are in I don't know, recall the exact words, but something like, as long as you are resisting old stuff, I mean, measures or tools for like kindergarten people, something like that. And that came to my mind when thinking about this. And I already told the girls, this is a German, no, it's an English book, but translated into German. It's called, wait, The Winner Effect, How Power Affects Your Brain, by Jan Robertson. And it was written in 2012, so the nowadays politics is not in there. But it's so interesting to see what does it take to find new ways to contain what biology gave us to survive. Like who has the power can put in most spermia and take it all, but sometimes lead to destruction of the whole crowd. And so yeah, I'm curious how to deal with it, but without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as some said. And kind of, when you talked, Doug, it was kind of, I'm not sure. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did, and I just want to say, I'm not coming from a place of sort of rejection or judgment of all things old. My focus is more on what you just shared, which is using those things, but doing that and using them in a new way and through a new lens. And the element, Sam, to unpack and to sort of granularize in terms of the industrial in this particular context, the tendency for us to follow a pattern where somebody sticks a stake in the ground and goes, we're going to talk about this, without the consideration or protocol of checking in and making sure everybody wants to talk about that, is what I'm rejecting. It's sort of it's a projection of power, authority, and control mentality that says, because I'm putting this stake in the ground and saying, this is what we're going to do, my expectation is everybody's going to buy into that. And there's an assumption, and there is never the question at the front end, which says, would everybody like to talk about A? And if we can't back up that energetic orientation of how we relate to each other with much more sensitivity to every individual's sort of emotional place and sense and experience and response and feeling about whether to do that or whether not to do, whether they want to do that or not, at least as a check-in, we're missing the boat. We're doing us in a very classic projection of power, authority, control basis. So that's sort of the specific in this particular context that I'm looking to highlight.
My question in that is, so everybody really needs to agree to do that. If 9 people want to do it and 1 not, what do you do then?
Well, at least the one is given an opportunity to say, well, this session isn't for me, right?
Okay, so
I mean, it doesn't require that everybody be involved or agree to everything, but at least people need to be given a basis to exercise discretion and control and choice over what's for them and what isn't.
the thing is, as far as I have understood these sessions, you never know what comes out before. So you cannot at the beginning of the session decide, I want to stay here or I don't want to stay here. So for me, it's also part of, how do you say, goodwill to just go on with the flow, what is coming on. And when it's going ahead in a certain way and you don't like it, you can go away. That's what I think. But I agree that maybe it would be good to know, like on Friday, that it would be a technical session. But on the other hand, I found it somehow interesting. Also, I'm really not loving tech very much, but you know, I could have gone away if I realized that it would be all the time that, but I didn't because, you know, because of my reasons. So I'm not really sure how to handle that really everybody needs to agree of what we are doing. Or you have a structure, as I talked yesterday about it, that you say on Friday we are exploring tools and who wants to participate, or whatever day it is, you know. And then when this structure is there, then we know what we expect these days and we can choose. Otherwise, every time having an hour of introduction or a check-in or something before we begin to talk about the topics, I find that's weird too, you know.
Heidi, can you hear me? Heidi, I fully sympathize with you. This was one of my reasons that I was not so often here, but I also have many obligations presently. What I really want to say is linking to what you said Heidi and Sam, because you see, we are in conflict resolution, going to the deep drivers in really wicked problems much further ahead since 20, 30 years. And I think we should really discuss why such methods have been taken up finally by the American Indians and the Maori, and we are still here in our ways, not really confronting what I've been saying maybe very often. The second, I think we are still in this old yes and no dualisms, like fine brush, broad brush, inside, outside. When you look into these methods, they go for supermajorities and they clarify the context. And to really do such challenges, like has been done with the structured dialogue design people, is really something which takes sometimes even more than the 3 hours you use here. But you can follow up, where are the deep drivers? Why don't we come? And when we are really having this spread thing, not the group thing and the me thing, the variety involved, then we can clarify the positions and the perspectives. And the last, what I wanted to say, this discussion of paradigm is very old. We said we need a map of a meta paradigm where we map all the premises of our paradigms. And you see, when we don't in this group come to discussion what we mean, there's rational, there's non-rational, and there's irrational and a perspective. Ken Wilber has been taking it up from, well, I'm not giving names anymore. It is there that we can go to the end or in an embodied sense. And this is my deep desperation here with this group. It is not intensive enough. And at the other time, it's always starting from square one. And so, excuse me, I'm getting very impatient and I will be picked up very soon. But I just wanted to listen to again see all the faces and maybe even new faces, and hope we can stay in touch, even when when I come in, when I feel being so nasty.
You're awesome, Heiner. Well, I'll step in, being the power being referred to as well. Just want to own that. Friday is the session where I would like to be able to do some experiments in collaboration with everyone. And so I started collaborating with Colin this week on Doug's suggestion. And so I did a deep dive with him of an hour and 45 minutes, which was posted right away for people to be able to really look at the tool and get a sense of it. To my mind, it's awesome, but it's pretty simple. It's a mind map and it's a tool. So for me to be in alignment also with what I heard after you left the session, Doug, on Thursday, Anna, did you want to say something? No, okay. Josh made it very clear that he's the one that brought up the leadership thing, and that I needed to talk to Sam to be able to sort out how that's working in the GCC, because he feels blocked. He's recognizing that someone new like Colin is also going to be blocked. So I walked into this week knowing that these issues would arise. And rather than shying away from them, I decided to walk right into them, because they're here and it would be useful for us to have it right on the table. So when I was collaborating with Colin, I understand that Colin, how he referred to, how he kind of presented was that we're like a lab for him. We're a research project. He wants to build a conversation tool. And that's awesome. But Colin's not the only one here. We're all here as well. And so rather than doing a presentation style, I suggested that we do a true collaboration, because I personally would like to migrate towards deepening collaborations and, as Heiner talks about, speeding up. So in conversation with and in a collaborative space with Colin, I suggested that we use the tool of mapping to map something that would be useful for us here at the GCC. And I suggested upon reflection that our needs would be useful, the needs of the GCC. So we could land right where we are, right who we are, and begin to collaborate towards our shared identity by looking at our needs. Harry's been teaching me about looking from that perspective, and I thought that might be useful. So I did put that forward to the group ahead of the session. Harry collaborated in putting together a post that reflected that. So the invitation was not for a presentation. It was for a demonstration and a collaboration of how a mind mapping tool can serve us. In true collaboration style, it didn't work. It's an experiment. There was resistance from Doug. Doug suggested that he really wanted to go into a deep dive with, and our attention was on the tool, not the stated purpose. And that's okay. I definitely want to personally up-level my engagement to being and doing. And so that's I would like to do that for myself. And as my life energy is informing what I'm doing, I want to state my need and my desire and absolutely put it to the group, which I feel was done. And so, yeah, I am interested in us putting the leadership piece right on the table, because I also have my discomfort with being the person, or between me and Sam, functionally holding some of the power pieces. Doug, you hold a power piece in hosting today as well. So we do have shared leadership between the 4 sessions: Sam, Doug, me, and then an open space. So yeah, I'd like to personally, if I don't respond and respect what's been said over and over again, then that's madness. If I don't respond to that. So Friday was my attempt to respond to that in the best way that I know how right now. I knew that I would be getting, pulling the trigger on some of these topics that have been difficult for us to navigate. And I think that's great. I think it's good. I want to move it along, and have us do whatever process we need to come into a place of resolution. And with that, I'm complete.
I'm really interested in the leadership topic, and particularly because I have just proposed the Europeans get together, and it has struck me in doing that how somebody has to take responsibility, or several people have to take responsibility, but it's sort of hidden in what's been going on, because somebody has to book the Zoom room and pay for it, and presumably they're paying what I was going to be charged, which is £12 a month. That hasn't, so it's not a collective thing. So when you say we share the leadership, actually it's separate people doing the leadership separately, which is fine. I mean, it works if that's what people want to do. I certainly don't want to do that. I don't want to pay £12 a month. But if there are several of us that want to do it together, that would be great. So I'm just trying to make the leadership sort of model that we do have at the moment more transparent and more out in the open and obvious, because there is obviously, I mean, I'm not sure what the argument about leadership is about. I mean, it would be nice if Josh would say, because apparently he was one of the people who would like to see more leadership, or feels that somehow we're not, and this was also what Harry brought up, that we're not progressing because we don't have leadership. So yeah, I'd like to hear more about that from anybody who fancies.
So, Doug, I'm sensitive to the fact that I did not attend on Friday, so I didn't actually witness what happened. What happened for me was I got a call, I think it was either Thursday, from Tammy, right? And it was Tammy and Colin trying to figure out what to do for Friday. And I heard what I heard, and I probably only understood a part of it. And even though I didn't think I was likely to attend, I suggested a particular approach, which was not tool-centric. It was questions around what this tool might enable or empower, also what the website might enable and empower. And so those are the kind of questions that I was recommending we pursue. And if there wasn't an opportunity to do it on Friday, I was actually offering to be a part of that on Saturday. It turns out Saturday was pretty much devoted in large part to this question as well. I have two other thoughts, and one is that this notion of inclusion I like very much, but it's also dangerous to think that inclusion means everybody, every time, every meeting at the same level. I think that is, again, pardon me, Heiner, broad brush, too simplistic. We need people who cycle in, cycle out. We need events that cycle in, cycle out. That's the nature of the universe. That's the nature of the way energy flows. And in some conversations, some topics actually get more airtime, others don't. That's a very natural process. Therefore, one's gravitational pull towards those topics is going to ebb and flow. That is completely natural as well. I like Heidi's characterization of it, which is, let's see what comes up. Let's see if it happens. Let's go with the flow. If too much of it ends up being painful, you choose. Very wise man once told me, we actually don't have any choice until the pain is too great. So once the pain is great, then we choose. Okay? And sometimes there's another whole danger there in that we think we have sucker's choices only. And, that's the whole binary thinking that leads us into a lot of BS. So what I'm saying is these questions about whether people say plugged in, whether people say present, is potentially asking too much of people and these events. And I think this topic has been brought up again, many times in the past before. If I choose to express every one of my triggers in every single meeting that I'm participating in, that does influence the discussion. And whether I choose to do it is a very conscious choice on my part. If I believe that the conscious choice is to refrain from expressing it right now so that the group, quote unquote, or the topic can get fully fleshed out in whatever form it wants to be fleshed out, and I can take care of myself or someone else can take care of me, or I can seek help in my trigger and do it offline without affecting the flow of the group, that's potentially one very responsible way to deal with it. So bringing it up in real time is not always the correct move, in my opinion. And I definitely caveat that. And I think that's a participation skill and a participation responsibility and discernment that merits discussion. It may not be right for everyone, but so long as we all practice this differently, then we end up not understanding what discussion is taking place and what flow is taking place and what topic is taking place. Are we talking about facts and, issues and actions? Are we talking about relationships? Are we talking about pain? Those are very different conversations. And everybody's at a different part of that. So I would question the inclusion principle to be applied so simplistically. I would recommend not doing so. Over.
Can I, do you hear me? Okay. Yeah, it's kind of noisy here, so just a few remarks. I was struck by what Heiner said, and this frustration of moving too slowly. And I feel it in a somewhat similar way, I think so, but I might be projecting. That okay, I'll just say it as I see it now. I feel that there are certain habits that go long back, very long back, maybe thousands of years. I don't know. I don't know if we should call them old, new parrot, whatever, but has something to do with how we understand concepts, categories, groups, maps, which is what Einar has spoken about. I feel that's very related, because he sent me a few links about this. And whether there is, something that's brought people to where we are to at this point in human history, but it somehow stops. It doesn't scale to global, and there's something else which is needed, and that then comes to group. What does a group mean? What is GCC? So that's my next question. What is the GCC? And is the conception of group that I have from normal culture, which is the inside, outside, the dualistic, whatever. But it's a certain way of thinking about groups. You're in a group, or you're out of the group. A group is a group, begins here, stops there. And I found myself very confused about that. I don't understand what the GCC is, and I even wonder whether it's that important. I wonder if that's a part of the block. I know it's a big question because it really challenges ideas which have been taken for granted for thousands of years. I know, but I keep coming back to it again and again, and somehow feels like a different kind of understanding of what a group even is called for. And with that understanding, this is the one group. It's one group. It's two groups. It's 10 groups. It's 20 groups. It's all of this at once. And there's human beings. This is more easy for me to understand. Human beings on the surface of the planet, walking around three-dimensional space, going in buildings, eating food, breathing air, opening doors, experiencing things. This is specific. I can relate to this. I can relate that to experience. And that's a kind of conversation which I have a hope which could lead to a new perspective where we could actually solve global challenges in a totally new way, where we don't need this group mentality that has been with us, which may be a part of the problem, even though there's a beauty in the group too. Yes, there is, and I feel the call of it. So I'm not saying to write that off either, obviously, but there's something restrictive, I feel, about the way we understand what a group is. Because as far as I can tell, GCC is the people and what the people are doing. So what else is it? There's the concept, okay, but the concepts understand differently by different people because we have different experiences. And that's okay. And there's similarities between that. That's okay too. And we maneuver through that. And every time is new, and every time is somewhat similar from last time, okay. So it's a dynamic, emergent process. But I keep coming back. I see this ball, planet Earth. I see people on the surface of it. I feel that's what this is about. And that happens anyway. So we have to deal with it one way or another. It is one global scenario, and we're in it. And we're influencing it one way or another. So that's where I come back to. I can relate to that idea. I can relate to my personal experiences. And maybe those are connected. But this group, what is GC? Yeah, I feel there's a lot of really confuses me. Yes. So I think that was the most important impression about this.
I would like to hear Josh in a way say in which way, whatever you want to say, but I have this question, in which way you feel blocked, or in which way you feel it came across like suppressed in doing what you would love to do and able to do.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, I never said that I feel blocked. I think that was Tammy's words, not my words. But it is good words. I think Tammy's right. There is a block. It's not that I feel blocked. And the block is very clear, is there are 4 people holding a meeting. So there's Doug, well, technically there's 3. So it's Doug, Tammy, and Sam, and one is shared. So there's 3 people holding meetings, and Tammy made a decision to press record, and so has Doug, and so has Sam. So there's 3 recordings, and where those recordings go was never decided by the group. So that's where I have a block, because if I record this conversation, like right now, I'm going to raise my hand and say, I'd like to record this conversation. So now I want to record it. Where do I put it? Who am I sharing it with? Who is the group? The block is we haven't decided on protocols, because we're a discussion group to decide on protocols not for the group, but protocols for the next 30,000 people that come into the group for this new paradigm. And that's the truth, is that there's a protocol that we're trying to get that's going to work for 30,000 people that aren't here yet. And that's where the block is, that I see it. And it's not so much something personal where I'm blocked, but I did want to do an action group, and I tried that on a Tuesday, and Glenn was nice enough to make it on a Tuesday, but he couldn't make it on every Tuesday. But what I learned from that action group is that an action group of 5 people or 10 people that have not made the agreement of who's going to do what before the group starts doesn't work. An action group of 3 people that haven't made an agreement, it's very easy to make a 3-person agreement within that moment. And that works great. So splitting off into small action groups works great. And that's just something I want to share to the group, is small action groups are super easy to manage and super easy to run. Dialogues are supernatural. Trialogues are just one step outside of the dialogue. A quadrilogue is hard. Right now we're in a 1, 2, what do we got? 9, 10, 11, I think 12. So we're in a 12-person conversation right now. Super difficult to do. The fact that we pull this off 4 times a week, whether it be 8 or 12 or 15, is pretty impressive. And I think we should all pat ourselves on the back for even wanting to talk to each other. But to answer your question, Gertrude, is I am blocked because when I record this Zoom call, I don't know where to put it or what the protocol is. And that's no one's fault, other than we just haven't made a decision, because we're waiting for everyone to come and join the group. So we're still waiting. So that's the way I see it, is we're figuring this out. And this is a great conversation. Thank you for letting me speak.
So Josh, may I do okay, Anna, please.
Well, I just wanted to ask Josh why you can't make that decision on your own. Why it needs to be every person in the group who has to agree to that.
And to answer that question, I've paid for this last month of hosting on the website, and sharing the resources I think is important. So anyone that wants to work on the website together, we should share the resources. So I don't I can't make that decision. I can, but I would be taking this recording and doing whatever I want with it, not giving it to the Creative Commons of the group. That's the answer.
So Josh, may I do an experiment with you? I want to respectfully disagree wholeheartedly with what you just said, but in a very loving way, okay? And thereby really, I thank you for bringing up the issue, okay? This issue, again, like many, has come up dozens of times. And there is a practice that Tammy and I and Lucy and others and Harry have been implementing, whether or not it's been widely acknowledged. It's been, that we record these videos, we post them to YouTube, we actually create the transcripts of it, we post the notes and transcripts. I have an index to the videos, and all, by the way, these have been kind of written up in documents that Lucy has edited, Tammy has edited, I've edited. So I'm not poking you intentionally, Joshua, for anything. Like I said, this is a phenomenon of the group. It's that the signaling around those documents and what Tammy and I and Lucy and others have put together has not been widely seen. It's not been widely perhaps adopted. But anybody coming to GCC, almost the very first thing they see is the announcement that says, here's all the meetings going on. And oh, by the way, down in the bottom of the page, there's a link that says, here's all the old videos. And if you click those links, you see all the old videos. So to me, I don't know why that is unclear. And it's a very good question you're asking is, why is it unclear for perhaps yourself? And with all the energies and creativity that you got, if this is a quote unquote somewhat solved problem, I prefer that you actually work on something that is not solved. Otherwise, it's kind of like reinventing again a solution which perhaps may not need to be fixed. So I'm poking you, Josh. I'm sorry about that. I hope you're taking this as a contribution for the group. It's not against you. I love you. I love your energy. I love the fact that you're putting together, lots of stuff that we can use. I would just rather see that we not replicate efforts and we actually put it to areas that actually are not already kind of, in a sense, working. Over.
So I'll jump in. And it's kind of betwixt and between for me, Sam, what Josh is saying and what you're saying. What has happened and how our storage of the videos has evolved. It's been an evolution. And so for me, there's also the Google Drive that has all of the Zoom calls on them, on there as well, not just the YouTube. And so we do need a conversation about where the videos are stored, and in the two places, both on YouTube and on a Google Drive. And it would be my preference to have that really well thought out in terms of each person has their digital identity as part of these things. And it's really important for us to deeply consider how we share them and how we give permissions in terms of what is shared, because there are some meetings that people in them, or maybe at the end of the meeting, I would invite people to consider, did I say something that I don't want to be broadcast? Should we just keep that within the group that was assembled? These are questions that we need to ask. And I think it's incredibly important because it is the full stack of our digital identities that are out there in the world. This is the basis for our reputation as well. There are all of these aspects of what it is to show up in these spaces and press record that I think need to be deeply considered by all participants so that people actually know and can, even after the fact, say, hey, I talked about my brother and I realize now that I don't feel good about having that piece out there. There's a early participant who is no longer with us, in part because they didn't feel comfortable with press record. So I think that it's important and it's a very deep conversation, as well as being deep within what it is we may want to build in terms of the collective intelligence of us, and interlinking and tagging and having a richer way to be able to experience the videos that I know is held by a number of different people in this group. And so I think a working group that is really looking at that, again, opt-in, those who really feel that this is something that they want to contribute to get together and bang these things out, because it isn't as simple as just the YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel at this time is shared between Sam and I for the most part. I would like to shift that, because this is deep in my convictions is that every person have the ability to say and consciously choose whether or not the videos are public, semi-private, or private. Another decision that I made early on, and this affects the group, and it was because this conversation hasn't been had, is that all of the videos are unlisted on my channel. So nobody can search for the GCC videos, because I wanted to err on the side of privacy, rather than make them public and searchable, because I felt that conversation was important to have before we make it public. So those are kind of some of the important thoughts that I have. And the just on a technical basis, saving the Zoom files, which include the chat, the audio on its own, and the video, that's what's stored on the Google Drive. And that's way more, that is the data that we might need to make that intertwingleability that Sam talks about. So I would suggest that it would be great for us to call a meeting to really map that out and consider what attributes, where we put it, and that protocol and process. Because also right now, for me, the saving of the videos on the drive is not necessarily connected. There's no easy way for me to connect and see whether everything's actually been posted to YouTube. So yeah, we need to get our heads on that, both from a technical standpoint, as well as the will of the participants that are offering the multidimensionality of their identities, their ideas, and representations of our bodies in this collaborative space, which is called a conversation. So I'll put that on the table.
I would like to ask a very selfish question. There was a session where there was only Anna and Doc and Lucy, and we were talking about my situation mainly. And I could elaborate very much of what was going on for me. And I would really like to have this recording on my computer to work on it and conserve for me these parts, even as a memory, and maybe also when I ask the participants, maybe make it public in a certain way, you know, because it is about Mark and I'm creating publicly an ebook and stuff like this. I might want to put it in. So I wonder who has access to the recordings, because you cannot download them from YouTube anymore. There were, you know, and from Drive, I don't think I could. So the question, who has access to the files?
Who recorded it is the question. If Doug recorded it, it would have gone to his machine and then he would have access.
So I could ask the person who has recorded it and to download it and to use it for me, or not. Also, these are things to talk about, you know, in the group, who can use the material for their own purposes.
Go ahead, Doug.
Heidi, if I have it, and I suspect based on the attendance, there was a gap where my room was being used for some sessions, I'll find it and make sure you have access to it, and or get it to you.
This is one thing, my thing, that's one thing, but it's
Understood.
the general, okay. It was
Yeah.
the 26th of August.
Okay, I'll check. It's very likely that it's on my machine.
I think there were more people than just the four of us. Maybe you're not remembering because those were the people who actually took part, but I think it was a bigger meeting. It was just an ordinary meeting.
I can look that up and find out. But
actually, they went away, and at the end, only we were staying and interacting.
Okay.
So
right.
Okay.
I just wanted to kick in the meat and potatoes and all of this stuff. So Sam, Josh raised the classic bugaboo of how to with videos, which is unbelievably evolved. So for me, the issue and the question is what to do with videos, how to do with videos. The issue and the question is, how do we address the gap? So why is it that Josh, who isn't like, I'm not familiar and I'm not technically, fluent, and I'm not this and I'm not that, who's somebody who's a sophisticated user, for want of a better way of putting it, and for some reason he didn't immediately or intuitively have a mechanism that connected those dots for him. You know what I mean? So it's those gaps and all of the issues that Tammy just listed as a list. To me, it's not, we have to discuss that privacy issue. It's that we have to set up a mechanical mechanism for somebody to be able to push a button or check a square that says, I approve this message, make it public, or I don't want this broadcast. And if one person says, I don't want to broadcast, you know what? It's not broadcast. So I think and this just sort of clarified as a result of this conversation, there's a tendency to, it's talk about it versus do it. And a lot of the frustration of not doing is because a lot of attempts to do end up in conversation, end up in flow of conversation, and it doesn't end up mapping to concrete answers, concrete progress with these open items, the open questions. And every time you extrapolate to group level question, I'm not sure that it doesn't become unmoored, like that isn't at the root of why so many efforts and attempts have been frustrated in purpose. And maybe it's less about questions than it is about what are the actual what are the things, what are the disconnects, what are the, I don't think anybody here disagrees with the idea of each individual having sovereign authority over whether their name, likeness, and image is broadcast or not. So the decision around that, I don't think is a complicated thing, but having a mechanism for people to express that on an individual basis in real time as we go is the piece that's missing that sort of puts wheels on it. The other thing, and I'll finish, is you guys ended up in the seats you ended up in by default because you picked up the ball. Tammy is drowning in video files. Sam is drowning in video files. Like all of these things ended up where they are by default because you rose to that challenge, right? That's a bigger issue from the standpoint of scale and cost and all of that stuff. Like, does that really work? Or Sam, don't you need your own YouTube channel for you and your stuff? And Tammy, don't you need a YouTube channel with your name on it for you and your stuff? Not carrying 5,000 GCC videos as an archive if you didn't sign on for the archivist piece. So that's a question, to the group. That's a call to action to the group. And Josh going out of pocket for the group is also a question for the group, like how do we share responsibility for that? In fact, not as a conversation, but how do we set up a mechanism for people to contribute to costs that individuals are incurring as a contribution and in service to the group? So there's a practical version of all these things, and then there's a conversational dimension of all these things. And maybe if we could discriminate better between which is which, we might make more progress. And I'm complete.
I thought, wasn't it like to create that website, to have that, to have a back store kind of for us, a storage, what to say, to have a part where only that were in there did that, can see it, or we just don't publish it at all, or it's open on the, when somebody clicks on the GCC site, then they have access to all the open videos. So I thought that was one part, and I was not part of those conversations because there were many Fridays I couldn't come. But that was one of the things that I thought was the intention.
Could I respond to that briefly? Sorry, were you finished?
Sure, Glenn, but please don't say briefly. I really get nervous when you say briefly and then it's 10 minutes. So you can answer, sure, but don't say briefly if you don't.
And for the record, I've had my hand out for about 2 minutes.
Okay, this is just a quick question, but it's just about names and the people in the videos who may not want to be in it. Because I got the impression we had an agreement that we're going to transfer all the videos to the website and then tag the names, because we've begun doing it. And then we have a mechanism for that. So I wonder if you agree that we have a mechanism for that now. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Okay, so I'd like to look at least one, possibly 2 layers deep at this question and say, why don't we write things down and share them? Part of the problem is the cost of making these decisions is so high because they're made in these group conversations, because the writing of things is yet another triggering topic. But there are written artifacts about certain things and how they get done. One of the things that I've encouraged is I really enjoy the fact that there are at least 2 or 3 or 4 suggested ways of doing something, because that means there's a conversation that can be had about, hey, let's use this from that, let's use this from that, and together we make it better something, and that's co-creation. But if there's nothing shared, then everybody's in the situation that Josh found himself in, which is, I don't know how to do X, Y, Z. Well, there is a way to do X, Y, Z, and that is either, as Anna says, decide it yourself and propose it. But I would add another finer thing, which is before you decide it yourself, figure out whether it already exists. Because there is a way to find out, whether there are documents that describe how to handle video recording, okay? So that's one idea, is that our tendency to not write things down and share them is a big block. It's one of the hugest blocks for GCC. The second is, I think I'll just mention again, this idea of inclusion, that everybody be involved in every event. I really think that's not possible, and it certainly does not scale. There are certain people here who have a lot of expertise in creating products. A website is a product. So we can actually determine what that product is intended to do for the people that buy it, the people that actually sell it, the people that actually use it, the people who are affected by it, the victims of it, all those different stakeholder types. There are ways to do this. We know how to do this. Now, you can say it's part of the old industrial framework, but this is where it takes more fine-grained discernment to understand what part of that is useful and what part of that is not useful. And if we actually then agree that there are some people with certain skills, some people are more skilled in dialogue moderation, some people are more skilled in technology, some people are more skilled in writing summaries, you know, as long as we understand that we all come with different skill sets and allow people to contribute where they have these skill sets in such a way that does not create strife and disagreement, that's all right. So if we can actually set up, as Josh has, an action group that says, let's go create some of these artifacts, then the rest of us, quote unquote, don't need to be bothered or wasted, our time wasted by it. We can just say, you know, hey, let me figure out what you guys are doing, and if I disagree, I'll give you a way to signal that disagreement, and hopefully you guys will incorporate that in your decision making. Those are all scalable ways of doing this, but it all starts with agreeing that sharing information via written expression is useful. So long as we are still blocked by that, we'll continue to have this discussion over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Can you say that again, Sam?
And
what was
over.
that?
And over.
No. No, not that.
Are we seriously still blocked by that? That
Look,
really
I'm
triggers
saying that
me.
we're
So-
not.
I don't think so.
Because I have written things down, other people have written down, but the signaling around it is not what is ubiquitously adopted. So we are taking action. Tammy's writing action. She's recording things. I'm recording things. I'm taking action. I'm uploading things to, you know, as someone told me way back in January, just do it. I've been doing it. Now, the whole separate question is, how do other people know about it? That's a different question. That's the question on the table right now. So people who are doing it need ways for other people who are affected to learn what that doing is. Over.
Yes, and that's kind of what my experiment is, because coming in new, I'm an outsider. Who was the gentleman that expressed, Fleming? He expressed, oh, I read the mind map and I was all caught up and I knew what was going on. And he's got his own thing going on. He doesn't need to come and decompress and unblock. He just needs people to signal with, as you say, and have commitments that are, you know, these new smart contracts of the future, or whatever we're stepping into. But yeah, that's the point of the map for me, is to try to figure out as an outsider what's going on. So if nobody plays my game, which is typically what happens in the old world, then that's just my shoebox full of notes. But if I get people to play that game with me, it becomes something more. And that's something new that I'm experimenting with. And I'm just going to leave it right there. But I see so many rich things, unbelievable. And I'm really impressed to see the focus coming. So I guess one of the themes that I've had is, when you're doing requirements gathering, you have expectations. And so, and we fall. And then we get back up again. And I guess if you do the requirements gathering right, you can do the design right. And, you know, this is the design pattern. I don't want to get into design or technical stuff, because, you know, those are subgroups that we can get into. But the whole idea of having a trail of the conversation that someone can follow is just a meta idea, and it's almost like contrails of a jet in the sky. It lasts as long as it lasts, as useful as it is. And then to me, it can stay like that forever, because I like to live in that area, and everything is always creative and changing, and no dichotomies really exist until everybody agrees. And one thing that I would note, I got a lot of things to say. I should just write a big blog post, which is, again, what you're saying, write these things out. I think that's a theme. People can read it and contribute and extract from it. But when you're in the mind map, you're fooling with these ideas of what you're going to do. And so a couple of themes that have come out of it is, you know, the need for role building, people knowing what they're doing if they don't know. And if they do know, then get your profile out there where people can see it one way or another. And that's what Josh was doing, building the website with the profiles and all, back into the old model again. So it comes down to the proper signaling and the proper thing with the group. So I think I'm losing my point but having the design done right, as far as how you're going to figure something out, which is what I'm doing with my mind map, is useful for other people to tell me where I'm wrong. And now here's my point. Now that I'm not doing it by myself, I feel blocked. I feel blocked for two reasons. One is because I can unblock myself and go make a private mind map and do whatever I want and nobody can say anything. But if I want to start being less of a reporter and more of a contributor, I'm getting into this governance thing. And I'll give you one example. I like to use some icons on the mind map. And one is, it just came from nowhere. So it was called, from Harry, it was a rabbit hole icon. And I was thinking another really nice one would be from the alpha code, alphabet code. It's Z for critical path. Z with a line in it, it's the last letter. But I don't know what the relevance of the alphabet is. I don't know what the knowledge garden is. I don't know what any of this stuff is. And Fleming thought that I was an expert till he actually saw that I was just mapping it out. So, you know, it's just its own space to try to bring what I call gravity.
I saw Josh's hand up as well, Sam,
Yeah.
from quite a while ago, and I have to jump out. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on the flip side. I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Well, I'm just going to take the energy down for a second and just say this is a great conversation. And Sam asked a really good question, which we haven't been able to signal each other for about a month or so. So the answer to your question, Sam, of why I was blocked is not because the protocols weren't there or my access to the repository for the videos wasn't there. It's that the repository itself is not owned by the group. It is the Gmail, the Google Drive that is your Google Drive to put the videos on. And that's why I can't put the videos there, because it's not owned by the group. So one of the things I just took upon myself was to create global challenges collaboration at gmail.com, open up a YouTube account. And that seems like a great solution, but it's a temporary solution, because by doing that, we are opening up an account with Google. So now Google owns all the information. So now we're giving it to Google. So what I wanted to do was just ask the group if we can all contribute and pay Google so that we own it, because that's the difference between using these services. We're using Facebook as a group, but we don't own that group. Facebook owns that group. And that's why I created the part in the website where we would actually own it, and to also have a server that the group owns. And I think a big part of doing the work that we're doing and collaborating is stewarding the conversation, stewarding the information, stewarding what's written down, and stewarding it in a way that it can move, transfer, and change so that it is owned. Maybe the group decides to start a foundation. Maybe the group decides to keep everything in the Creative Commons. Whatever that ends up being decided, it needs to be able to be moved later to that space. If it is Creative Commons, it needs to be published as that. And so that's why I was blocked, Sam, is because if I went and did the protocol as it is now, it would be on your Google Drive. And same thing with the website. If I continue to build the website on my server, then it's owned by me. And I don't want that. It's really important to me that that's not the case. And I just wanted to share that so you understand where I'm coming from.
So how much would that cost? Because we're really talking now about doing rather than talking about. How much would it cost to set up a way for us to own where we store those videos?
Sure, it would be for hosting a G Suite account. It's $10 a month that we could all share. And we would have to share the role of administrator for that G Suite account. If we want to create seats in there, it's an extra $5 per month to create a seat for each person. And therefore, someone would take on the role of administrator to make sure that all of our seats can share. As far as hosting goes for the website, it would be $35 a month for hosting, and $35 could be split between everyone per month.
So all,
So what is that all?
yeah, all in all, what is it? Did you say total? What the total was, Joshua, for the total? price?
I think Josh said it's about $5 a person, plus $10 for the administrator, plus $35 a month for the website.
If you,
Now, let me
Share
answer.
between.
who works for WordPress? Who's got shares in the WordPress company? You get a free Amazon website, storage,
WordPress is,
and only pay for the data transfer.
WordPress is open source.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about a
sorry,
free service. Free.
It is free.
No, I'm talking about Amazon. Virtual private server for nothing. For 12 months free. And after that, you only pay a few cents a week for data transfer. Jesus Christ.
Alex, that's...
See, I'm about...
Yeah, it was the question was asked, how much does it cost? And it's $45 a month. That's the answer for everything.
But is it feasible to
plus
get it
$5
for free?
You sound like
Yes.
a WordPress executive.
Owned. That's the problem. If it's free, you don't own it.
Ah.
Look, here's the problem, okay? Tammy and I have both been paying Google. So the files that we upload actually are subject to our discretion, okay? And until this becomes an issue, which it may or may not, you know, at this point because it's being raised, you know, there's many things that individuals here have been willing to support just independently simply because it's a contribution to the group, okay? And until we have a way for a group to coalesce, there is no group. They're just a bunch of individuals. So individuals can decide to pay for Google accounts, can decide to upload videos, because we haven't come up with what those,
we have,
dare I say it, rules of engagement or charter or guidelines or principles are. Wait, Alex, let me finish, please. So what I'm saying is this is the age-old question of, are we a group? Do we have identity? Do we have a liability? Do we have assets? Do we have all these sort of things, which, again, starts to become a very tired refrain.
Okay?
And if we keep asking this, we're just going to bore people again.
Hang on.
Why don't we just resolve
Look,
it? You know?
Look, listen, it's
Alex.
not free. Joshua's correct, but it's free compared to the cost he just mentioned, $45 a month. I'm talking about a few cents a month. It's not free, so you do own it. It's a virtual private server, and you own every kilobyte of data on it.
Those free services are very small storage limitations.
They're not free. They are not free. They are almost.
Alex, I understand.
They are almost free. So I'm not talking about a free service. I'm saying it's free compared to $45 a month.
And here's where it would be nice if there was an icon that you could pull up and say, you know, technological question that needs answered. It gets a ticket.
Exactly.
It's answered. That's it.
Exactly.
There's no time.
Because I submit that our collective time here is too valuable to waste on trivial little details like this.
Yeah, I think my whole idea of the map is people should feel ready. So when they come here, they're summarizing what they're contributing or saying, I don't know what I'm contributing. What should I be contributing? And then after they feel comfortable about that, then they can take some airtime. Other than that, they can write documents and try to, you know, solicit support for what it is they're trying to do to solve the problem. And if there's a whole new element I have come across, which I really enjoy, and it takes me from actually being the experimenter and being a community member that has to, you know, contribute as well. So I'm trying to figure out what that role is myself, and that's what I'm saying. In that role, I feel blocked. In researching the community and building software, I don't feel blocked at all. So but if I want to give back, like, okay, I'll give you a deeper one. So I told you about a simple little elephant icon. I didn't know if I should ask for an elephant icon or a critical path icon. But I got stuff beyond that. Like, I would like to ask for 3 people who want to actually edit the map, and that's it. And then everybody else can read it. And then, because, you know, I have an experience and I showed people and I think I gained some interest, but it's just like these calls. You can't have 50 people editing the map at the same time without a good protocol. And that's why you need a program. And I did write the Google guys about some administrative technical stuff, and I'll leave that for a technical ticket because I don't think I need to talk about, you know, my technical ideas was cool, but the idea that I think that it's a powerful tool, and I'd like to have 3 people in the community give me resources, and I've already had 3 or 4 people reach out, and I bumped Doug, and I feel so bad because I moved some maps and I bumped Tammy, and I don't know what's going on, but it's all there and it's all open. And what I did is I moved it to my own folder. I'm now a member of Awesome. I'm going to spend $5 a month, and I'm going to be able to do awesome stuff with the maps. You guys are going to be able to see it, but you guys are only going to be able to do regular stuff. But I can have as many people in there as I want. So my game is on. I'm looking for people, just a few people. And I think Gertrude also said that she was really interested in learning and wants. So, you know, over the next few weeks, I'm willing to put some time into this, but I have a lot of resources too. So how do I signal that without, you know, splashing the community farm building or whatever? Like, I don't know how to. I'm being simplistic because, you know, things take time, obviously, and you work at them. And I'm not saying that I should be accepted right away and all this stuff, but I do feel that people are nudging me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, look, you're stepping in it. There's a whole lot of stuff you gotta back away and consider before, you know, we just go into the community and start mapping out profiles and saying, you know, what signaling do we need?" And which is really powerful. I came and put on a whole bunch of Doug's MMC stuff, which is all beautiful profile stuff. Joshua suggested use the taxonomy that we have. And I said, you know, this is what I'm after. So it's really a lot of draft work, and it's messy because when you get into designing the software and building the databases, you don't want to be blocked into mistakes that are costly later on. Even just using Zoom software is useful. So powerful. I don't know. I haven't really had any good feedback from what I'm doing yet, other than people say they like it. So that's another thing I'm looking for.
Josh, you've had your hand up forever.
I wanted Sam, I think, just nailed it right there, is we can work as a group and have group dynamics, possible governance, maybe simple protocols. I really like what you did, the COI and that simple protocol, and I would love to put that into effect of having 2 people responsible for each action, or 2 people responsible for what your greatest good is. But let's just answer that as a group and get that clarified, because I'm good either way. If we all work individually and then come back together and talk about things we did individually, or if we decide there's a collective repository, there's a collective Gmail, there's a collective hosting, whatever that is, if it's going to be collective or individual, either way we'll make it work. So I just think that we should do what you just said, Sam, and I'm going to give the floor back to you, and I'm complete with let's make that decision so we can move forward. And how we make that decision, let's decide here together, whether it's a poll in Facebook, a forum, something, let's make a decision. I don't know how that protocol works. That's the other part. How do we make a decision? So let's figure that out. I'm complete.
So there is no group, in my opinion, right now. There's a bunch of individuals, as has been stated. So I take action on my own sovereignty. I create folders. I create and upload materials. I create documents. It is the personal sovereign choice of each other individual to read what I create, to view what I create, or whether to edit and refine, okay? Now, at some point, someone says, oh, that's interesting, and now we have 2 persons collaborating on something, just as I might do with your website ideas, Joshua, okay? And then we have a collaboration. But to ask the group to sanction in some way is a year-long conversation that goes nowhere for now. So right now we are individuals. We each pay for services. We each use services. We write materials. And the adoption by the group is the true test. Now, coming here to these conversations is a way of signaling to say, hey, I got something. Would you like to take a look at it? Facebook is similar. Email could be used, but we don't use it very much. Slack could be used. We don't use it very much. Leemail could be used. We don't use it very much. Vice Code could be used. We don't use it very much. Blah, 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 blah. You know, there's been dozens of things proposed. It's a matter of personal interest, not about the tool. And it's a matter of generosity about whether or not I'm going to spend some time looking at someone else's work, or someone else is willing to look at my work or not. That's the real question. So until we have a group, We have individuals who take individual action who are unblocked in doing so. So by saying that you're blocked, you're actually giving more power to the group that actually exists. Just do it. I was told that back in January. I'm doing that. Okay. And where there is, material to be reviewed, I bring up, hopefully gentle, I hope I've been gentle in doing it, saying, please look at this. But it is too premature for us to say there is an identity to a group and there is some other way to manage this, because then we get into liability, legal issues, accountability, titles, compensation, asset management, risk management, locations, addresses, blah, 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 which strikes to me that, Doug is now going to just keel over. Okay? We can have that conversation if we want. There's a group of us that probably wants that conversation.
I had this frustration that you mentioned, Sam, and that's why I was interrupting. I apologize for rudely interrupting, but it is that frustration of not moving forward because everybody was repeating stuff we've gone over so many times before is one of the frustrations I experienced also. So it's a great honour to be here, to have Colin on the show, because Colin's got the mind map that allows us all to see those bottlenecks. The bottlenecks.
But see, therein lies the problem, Alex. Colin does have it. So does Aaron. So does Joshua. So do I. So does Tammy. So does Doug. We all have it. That's the problem.
Yes, but I do have an ask, but I don't have a protocol.
So does everyone else, Colin.
Yeah. So I would like to make my asks, and I think that would be part of my check-in and check-out. I think that's how I'm going to do it. So I kind of lay down the seeds so that it makes sense when I do it.
The frustration in retreads and covering the same ground over and over again, it's actually an iterative reality because each one moves us closer to either clarity or insight. And it might seem like a snail's pace, but we are doing this differently. And I think, Sam, you nailed the difference, which is we don't need the group or the aggregate version. We are comprised of individuals, and each individual has the ability to choose to step up and contribute in whatever tangible, intangible, or concrete way they do. And other people can experience pull and be drawn to those contributions. What I'm most focused on are the gaps. So you've done all this contribution, but where's the signaling piece? And that may not be your piece to bring. That may be somebody else's thing whose focus is signaling. And Colin's focus is mapping. And Glenn's focus is chronicling. And Harry's focus is representing graphically. Each person brings what they bring, their superpowers, their gifts. And relating to it as an assembly of individuals, I believe, is the starting place, actually. Like building up from that as an operating premise without extrapolating to the we, the group, and all that other crap, which you went into and then hung around my neck and said, which Doug has would kill him. You're right. I just don't see any of that as the point. The point is in the doing, individually, collaboratively, and there's a collective output that's enabled and that's a potential, but it's a resultant, it's not the thing. It's each individual's gifts and application of their time and attention that produces that. And turning that telescope around is exactly the difference that I believe is our difference. If we can make it work as a collection of individuals that coalesce in a completely fluid way to contribute in different combinations and different groups at different times around different points of focus, then that's new and hugely generative and is very unbinding in the way it fits, in the way it feels. It just seems a lot more natural and organic to me.
So I just want to point out that I don't think that Sam said we don't need a group. I think he was saying that he actually finds it difficult. I'm not sure that I understood you, Sam, but you're sort of accepting the status quo, that we are acting as individuals, but it's not how you would prefer it, and you do get frustrated, and you understand a lot of other people also get frustrated because of the same thing. But also I'm saying that I agree with Doug that this is a different way to function, and that it's understandable that it causes frustration. And that is why it comes up again and again and again, because we have to go over it again and again and again. But it is actually working in the way, well, for me, it's working. I mean, you know, it's up to people to say what they would like to see the group doing, that it's not doing, that it could do as a group, which it isn't doing.
By the way, just to clarify, I'm actually not frustrated by the current state of non-incorporation. That is not what frustrates me. What frustrates me a little bit is that that is not well understood, and that therefore that question gets asked all the time. I am not blocked because I do create the artifacts that I want to create. I invite, edit, and review. And ever since January, I've been unblocked about that. I'm slow, but I'm unblocked, okay? But what is frustrating is people who don't understand that come and keep asking the very same question. So until there's an artifact that explains this situation, every new person, and Colin's right now, the lucky latest, will be asking the very same questions. Joshua, a few months before that, you know?
I volunteer to write that up.
Holy smokes.
I
can't believe I'm hearing this.
I'll help you.
I volunteer.
I cannot believe I'm hearing this.
I volunteer with Glenn's help.
Where are you going to put it, Doug?
To write that up so that
I want to tattoo it right here, okay?
where again does that question have to be asked? We can give people a
We
link.
don't have choice until the pain is too great, okay?
So in the spirit of taking action, I'll try to take some action. I wanna help with that, writing up, including the map, and I also wanna create a map for the different deep dives we've had so far, because I think they presented a coherent vision, and I wanna help with the web page. So of course it's a danger to take on too much. But I think all of this is so connected, and it should be easy to do. It's not really more time consuming than coming into these conversations. But what I really wanted to ask was about the hosting. Let's take the web side. So let's say, because I thought it was an agreement that we would use the Global Challenges Collaboration.org for the time being, maybe not infinitely. I certainly don't want to use anything like that in future. I have a totally different vision of a totally new platform, and I think many others have too. But it seemed to me there was an agreement that you will use WordPress for the time being, and if it costs $45 a month, I'm pretty sure there could be 5 people. I can certainly be part of it, who will be willing to share that cost. If that means that we have one place where we do own the data, so then we have a leeway, right? So there's no problem with that. Now, the next issue. What about people coming in conversations and then saying something personal? They don't want it to be there. Each person who begins the conversation, we know it's being recorded. Yeah, there's no we. Yeah, that's a good point. But the we is if 4 people agree to share the cost of this website, those 4 or those 5 or 6 people, that's a group, right? Because that's a group around that specific project. And that's in line with what you talked about, Doug, because each person does their thing, and when it overlaps, that's a group. The group is around the project. And I think that's a solution. I don't think it's a problem. I think we're making this group issue too complicated. The group is formed around specific projects. The GCC is vague. It has specific subgroups around specific projects. But what I just wanted to mention was when a person comes into these conversations, they should know this is being recorded and potentially shared. If they, at any point, don't want it to be recorded, they can say, this is private, we stop the recording. So that's already a procedure. If after the conversation, they look back, that was too private, I don't want to share that, we delete it. So if we have the data, or if the data is accessible one place, that should be relatively easy, especially if we've tagged all the people in the conversations. And we've kind of begun with this. I put in some of the videos from that document, and it's fairly easy. And I certainly would like to continue doing that. And, you know, I should talk to you, Josh, you know, we should have a meeting tomorrow maybe or something. And yeah, I definitely want to help with that. So I think we're moving in the right direction. But yeah, it's not the optimal system like YouTube. I see all that, YouTube only. But if we have the files, right, then at least it's not going to be lost. But like really in the future, I could see, I want to have a totally different technology. I even want to have totally different devices. Maybe not devices at all. Maybe holograms, you know. But certainly something that's owned by the people, the data, and stored. Right. That certainly seems like the solution because we own our data. So shouldn't be a problem, right? But for the meanwhile, okay, what do you think about this? Let's say we share the cost, is $45, those who want to, and who want to contribute with building it, then that is a group. That is a we. And then there's a larger we, which is maybe more vague and maybe even larger. That's fine, right? So what do you think about that?
I have a question. Why is it so expensive? Normal hosting costs, I don't know what, 10 euros or something a month, or even less. So the question, why is it so expensive?
You have to pay for to have ownership of your own data. You have to pay for the web server storage costs a month. If you have a free service, you're handing over all your data to the owner of the web server. So you pay the Amazon, pay $2.
But I don't pay that much. So
$2 a month. I think Amazon.
I think we're talking about two different things. Heidi, you're talking about web hosting, just basic web hosting for a site. Josh is talking about an actual GCC Google Services account that provides all of the functionality of Google Drive, of YouTube, of all of the integrated suite of Google services that are currently behind Sam's account, Tammy's account, places where the GCC has stuff reposed. And what Josh is saying is, if we have a GCC account with Google that's not a free account, it's a paid account, then we have all those same applications and services. But by paying for it, we own the data, we can pull it and migrate it to something in the future. It's not Google's, they can't access or use it for any purpose, they can't mine from it, it's ours. And that's a stopgap, I think, en route to where we ultimately would love to be, which is something holochain distributed based where we really control it. But that's the vision, is to get it off of Tammy's personal account a piece here, and Sam's personal account a piece there, and Josh's whatever over here. You know, right now it's scattered over individuals' accounts, and these are really, in the truest sense of the word, these are group assets. These are GCC-wide assets and resources.
There is no group.
Right.
And I would submit that eventually we do want to solve this, but I actually do fail to see the urgency of the issue right now. Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear what Glenn just said and what you're saying. I think everything's super clear, at least in my mind. It's very, very clear that there is no group, but there is a meeting there is a group on Facebook. Let's just say that. There is a group on Facebook, and there is a group here on the Zoom call. And we're meeting, this is the group at this moment. So that is absolutely fine. I agree 100% with Glenn, is that we can start a project separate. We can put donations for that project. Whoever wants to join can join. And then we can signal back to the Facebook group what we're doing. And if there's the unofficial GCC website that we're using right now, we can signal back there and just keep moving forward. I don't see anything as a problem whatsoever, but signaling is very, very important as to who wants to work on what. And this is a great dialogue. We have 4 dialogues every week to do that signaling. And that's what this is for. And then we cannot waste our time with all the actions and the discussions, because I think we're done. I think it's clear, Sam. I love what you said. I really do, that in January, anyone can do anything, and that's called anarchy, and it's wonderful. I worked in the anarchy theater group in New York City for about 2 years, and it was the most wonderful thing ever. It was anarchy. Anarchy is wonderful as long as you know it's anarchy and you don't have an illusion of a group. And in the anarchy theater group I worked with, some of us would go in a room and create a play, and we would do it together, and then we would perform it at the stage on the group platform. So here's the stage for us all to talk as a group. The Facebook group is the stage, and we can present the play, and no one has to come to the play and watch the play if they don't want to. But it's presented, and there's a time that play goes on. And I think the word play is really important. I love that Colin is playing and learning, and then taking this awesomeness that we've created. I'm going to just say it. It's awesome. What we're doing is I don't use that word enough, but it describes what we're doing here. It's awesome. It is awesome. Like, this is really cool that there's a group of collaborators around the world that want to talk to each other. Pretty awesome. So to me, it's crystal clear. I have nothing that's not clear in my mind. If anyone is not clear on something, I think now's the time to say it. I'm complete.
Yeah, let me add one more thing, okay? And this is in reference to something you said, Colin, but I think it also pertains to what Josh just said. There is no getting requirements right. There's only getting requirements as we understand at this particular moment. And the whole notion between an agile approach is we do as well as we can right now, and next time we'll do better. So the problem is, by phrasing things as let's get it right, it paralyzes us. It freezes us. But just saying it's as good as we know now allows us to take action. Now, you probably know that, but I really want to make sure that that's explicit.
Yeah, and I think that should be explicit in Doug's document. I agree. And when I say requirements, I mean the right change requirements built in, because I learned long ago, if you don't build in change, and thinking about this is important. I'll just feedback on I'll just switch over to a separate topic about the we. I think the we is virtual, and it's these mini groups that we break out in is what we do. But we can't, can we put a legal we on it? That's a separate question from the working bees. Is there a director bee who could say, your group has caused this grief in the world and we want to talk to the directors? Who are they? Then that's a different discussion. Whether we have money pooled together or not is probably a separate discussion again. And I think that if Glenn wants to follow through on raising money for a server. I think Josh should head that up probably because he's probably got more experience in that, or Doug. But I would just suggest that you pay for a year ahead of time so that everybody doesn't feel like it's going to just disappear.
Hey, I might be falling out, by the way, in just a few minutes. So, but thanks anyway. This was great. I'll just mention the bigger we for me is the human beings on planet Earth. That's the we that I identify with. But concerning specific projects, so maybe we don't need a GCC we, which is very definite. I don't really see the need for that. And tomorrow, I'm free tomorrow actually, Josh. So no problem. We'll talk then. So yeah, but it was awesome hearing all you. I think I'll just drop out now because the internet's ending after 2 hours here. So, but been wonderful meeting. So.
I'm also, I want to be respectful of people's time, but I also individually, personally, have a hard cutoff. I've got to hop. But this was great. Harry, thank you for starting us off down the path and calling the question. And
but wait a minute, I haven't checked in yet.
That was perfect. So with that,
I just want to mention about asking the group for money, because we were going to ask all these thousands of people. That's something that your project, Glenn and Joshua, you could say that you want to set up this place to, have the videos. It could be, pretty concise. And I think it's quite possible you could raise money that way, just donations, free donations from people.
Yeah, Anna and I actually...
And there is already a place where you can
Anna and I had actually agreed to go down that path in terms of fuel in the tank. So if we quad that up to the four of us and just compare notes, let's dial that in. And figure out whether the mechanism, the question we ended up stopping at was, is the existing mechanism for taking in money a mechanism we want to use, since it's not ours? It's really Daniel's, and it's something that predated this particular gathering and is under a different brand, for want of a better way of putting it. So,
Well, it serves the purpose temporarily. That's as good as we've got at the moment, just to follow what Sam was saying. Yeah.
Okay. I got to go, but I really, really appreciate and thank everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
This was terrific.
Yeah.
And I will be blasting everybody with the write-up of what we defined as the ungroup of GCC, which is what I'm going to call it, and and hopefully everybody can weigh in and make their comments. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
In holacracy, we say that we decide as late as possible, that we have tensions, and then we find a good next step to solve that tension. But to make decisions like big ones and as late as possible. And I think that apply for me. It applies to here as well, to see individual activities, enrolling others to join, like Colin did, and then see what comes out, and then we'll see how to deal with that, and maybe make decisions at a later time. Not to postpone it, but to go with that evolutionary journey, and not like in the orange meme, to to build a structure, and then everybody has to fit in. And I'm looking forward, Colin, to whatever you are signaling. Yeah.
I understand that, Gertrude, in principle, but those who think about the implications of decisions could then be, let's say, delayed. Tammy, for example, and I are both examples of that, and probably other people here. We each have dozens of people we want to invite to this thing, but we know the kind of questions that those people will ask. They're the ones that Josh and Colin and others have been asking, okay? And we don't want to necessarily invite dozens of our friends and then just confuse them by saying, oh, we don't have that decided yet.
Yeah.
So those of us that are looking for certain kinds of action who are blocked by decision A may be addressing something that to the rest of the group doesn't look like it's timely, and therefore, you know, we don't have to make that decision. So it depends on how you're thinking about the stream of events and all the dependencies there are. And that's why I say, you know, yes, I understand it in theory, but it's not as simple as that. Over.
Is it okay to step in? Don't want to. Hello?
Colin?
Yes.
Hello. We can.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I'm unofficially looking for some people to continue on with what experiment I've started. I'm very open in this, in a way that I'm letting the gravity affect me too, as opposed to doing what I regularly do. So I'm using my regular skills and trying to artistically put things so it makes things concise, but I'm looking to peel things off when they make sense and make it more concise. So that's the plan. And it's just a view of what we're doing. So that's fine. If you want to, it's a great skill, mind mapping, and I think Sam nailed that too. He said it's just a tool. It's the way we get together in committing to these little projects and signal. It is very confusing that the we and the group is an ungroup for people, where the artifacts are spread and therefore fragile. It's a fragile group. Josh wants to strengthen that fragile entity and say, I can not only strengthen it, but I can back it up and I can move it and we can re-theme it and make a big decision when Gertrude's ready. But if everything's all over, and maybe there is no thing that needs to be in one central place. So, you know, that's the vision of everybody of what's happening. But I do think governance is a virtual entity that needs to exist in that spot. So the decision not to decide has to be owned by that entity somehow, and possibly the foundation monies. You know, I think this is old territory, but it is kind of confusing. But as far as what I can contribute, I'm open to do what I can and follow the signals that I'm hearing. But a new signal I'm hearing today is from Sam. You don't need permission, and so I might not need permission, but I might feel like I need to talk to a few people first. Like, I think some videos don't get put out for the reason Glenn was saying, because they are might have sensitive material, private material that you don't want to expose to the larger world. So that kind of stuff. Where am I going with this? Can you help me out? Kind of losing my track thinking about this. But the idea, this is why I need mind maps, because it's wild. But what I'm trying to contribute is what I'm getting to, and whether I have permission to contribute. So yes. So I just saw Henry put up that critical icon, and that's what I mean. Like, when I start to influence the meta, this is like a song or something, and it can get into somebody's brain like a virus. Now everybody's following my man maps, looking for all the critical paths, and not follow. You know, that's not what I want to do. I just want to be in the background as a different kind of way of looking at things, exposing things, and a little bit of gravity. I got my own reasons, but I think everybody can bring their reasons to what I'm doing. And So that's, I'm not trying to do something new, as well as much as enhance what's a view of the chaos or anarchy that's already there. I guess it's been said, and I think of it as pulling people together as players in a gravity type of situation, and the GCC to me is its own entity, and it's at first I was calling it a player, but that gets too closer to the old school corporation idea. So it is very, very confusing for me, and I would like to jam with you guys on defining what that GCC entity looks like and what its responsibilities are, because it holds the question, what is the GCC? And it holds the question, who are the little groups that I'm pointing to? The GCC says, I'm this map looking out at you. So if it doesn't exist, the map wouldn't exist. So it's kind of all meta, and I would really love to help map that out, because it's very interesting. So there's many different sides, and I love the idea of having sub maps where people own their own sandbox. You know, there's a lot of natural organic stuff that comes from letting your thoughts grow, and you know, cutting them off. And anyway, I'll cut myself off.
So I want to reiterate something that I think I said yesterday, which is that I see this as some kind of a coalescing forward motion, forward progress. Yesterday, the four terms that I couldn't remember were storming, norming, forming, and performing. Others may know this model as well. It's a very simplistic model, I agree. But for a year, we hadn't really even gotten to the storming part. We're too polite, in a sense. I say that pokey, as I sometimes do. But now that the storming allows us to look at where we have different conceptions of what GCC is and how we go about doing it, we can now get into those conversations about how do we norm? Oh, that's another triggering word. How do we coalesce? How do we incorporate? How do we align, if at all? And if we don't, that's fine too. So far for a year, we haven't. And that's created some good things. It's created some confusion and some bounce. Some people come here and bounce off right away. Some people bounce after 3 or 4 meetings. And it's a sign, I still say, that if we call ourselves global, we need to think about the people who are not here. It's too easy to just focus on who's here. The people not here include those 1,050 other people in the Facebook group that have never participated in one of these calls. There's reasons for that. There's other people that do the search, find us and don't see anything useful here and then just move on. If we're calling ourselves global, we need to ask those questions. I think we've kind of morphed into a bunch of de facto practices and principles that involve Zoom, that involve recordings, that involve politeness, that involve a focus on human system sides, you know. And that each one of those statements is a filter. Each one of those statements attracts some people and pushes others away. It's okay to recognize that, but let's just understand that that's what's happening. And if we're calling ourselves global, we need to understand and possibly then design that whole experience again, over.
Yeah, I do see different bubbles of organization and coordination, and you know, I really felt some strong things from Tammy, her need, and going through that conversation with you on the way to the airport. That was quite unique. Like, I really feel like I'm flying with you guys. Like, it's, you know, I must thank you. That is something special. I need an icon for that, Harry. We need the rainbow icon, or the flow, the magic gravity icon, whatever it is that you experience once you get it. But there's a lot of people out there that actually care about you and can generate a safe space. And while you're at it, here's some guidelines and boundaries that we accept in our community and some we don't. There's not really any rules because it's not really a group, but if you want to take somebody else's work and call it your own, that's not right. If you want to take somebody's work and change it, then fill out this form and ask them. If they don't reply in 5 days, then give it a try and see if they say it's a bad idea. But if you get blocked after 5 days and you want to write the alphabet code in a new way, you go right ahead. Now, I say that very harshly because I haven't spent any time going through the Zen of your guys' deep material, and I'm asking you to feedback on mine. But really, I'm just asking for road signs. Are my road signs correct? Is this worth going into? Is this alphabet code still valuable? Well, I'll tell you what, I like that critical path icon. I really like that one. And I love the rabbit hole. And it just, the synergy is amazing. Like I've been putting on different kinds of glasses, rose glasses, and red glasses, and blue glasses, seeing all kinds of different things I couldn't see before. And that's an analogy from Joshua. And to your note, you know, people are pinging me. There are signals. I'm getting signals from people saying, you know, this way or that way, but nobody has any strong signals saying this is what we do. This is what we could do. It's all, wouldn't it be nice? And so, you know, and I think that's the side of the Zoom call thing, which is everybody bringing in that special thing that would be terrible to lose. But how do you build that into a sports jersey and a song and a slogan and a theme and something that the marketing team can use? You know, I'm thinking about these things too because I'm an artist. So I think it's a beautiful community, and it's great to be here at this point in time to see what happens. And because everybody's just ready to do their thing, and I say go for it.
If there's anybody out there who has contact with youth empowerment groups and youth movement groups, it'd be interesting to study what they're doing, because some of them are doing some extraordinary things.
Contacted whom? I didn't understand that.
I was looking at youth groups the other day because I realised that we need young people in the group, and young people are turning away from groups that contain lots of old people because we are the ones who cause the problem. So if we can get involved with some of those youth groups somehow to see what they're doing and make suggestions and offer links. And I like to do with the ones that are trying to target suicidal teenagers that are really out there raging, because there is simple solutions with meditation and thought processes that you can slow down and focus with simple techniques, and I like to try and pass that information on. How I do that with my website is another matter, but it's something I need to work on. It's an area where we have to get busy, or where I have to get busy.
Alex, thanks for bringing up that point, because there's so many stereotypes once you bring up this whole intergenerational question. You know, we can definitely be accused of creating the problem by the younger generations. I think there's almost no argument there. Likewise, for them to participate, we have to recognize they have their own struggles. They're probably out trying to start a career or raise kids or, you know, struggle to get by and meet bills. So I think of our society right now in nuclear families as having made it much more difficult for these intergenerational interactions to take place. You know, I grew up in a 3-generation household with my grandfather and all my uncles and aunts, and then, you know, my immediate family. So my parents didn't have to worry about whether or not they went to work and whether I was taken care of. Right now, with a nuclear family, or worse yet, single head of household families, that's much more difficult. So if we want to engage them, we got to make it possible for them to engage. And a lot of it comes down to just lack of time because they're trying to scrape by, many of them. It's different from the apathy or, you know, not caring. It's a means of survival. So I think there's a very curious intergenerational conversation, or several conversations to be had here, about the way these conversations can take place. So that's riffing on what you said, Alex. Thanks. Over. By the way, not very long from now, I have a visitor coming to see my puppies. I may have 2 visitors coming this afternoon, so I'm going to have to go get ready for them soon.
Okay, I posted a link, but I made a typo. Another Facebook group that I run. I've got a dozen Facebook groups with a couple of thousand members. And another 1,000 members who used to belong to Save Nature Free. I've still got the CC files, the email lists of those people, because I managed to save them before the site went crashed, before the site was attacked.
So today we didn't do any check-in and any check-out. I would like to do a check-out. Today, up to a certain point, I listened and I found it interesting, but I still see that the sort of confusion is going on. I don't really understand what is going on in this group, you know. Yesterday we had a concrete thing with Tammy being so dissatisfied, and somehow it was resolved. But today again, it was unclear, struggling. I understand that there's a lot of struggling here, a lot of not knowing, a lot of, you know, different ideas about what the single people are or what the group is. And still, I don't know what I could contribute. I would like to learn this map thing, this mapping tool. So if you do some things, I would participate. But that's more or less for me, for my own use, because I could participate then when I know it well and do something also for the group. But these are all things which it's not my, how do you say, my passion to do. I would do it because I just have to do it for myself, and so I can do it also for somebody else. But it's I don't know where I can give my gifts into the group, so not yet, where I'm burning. So I still will come and listen, but I feel that I'm not much part of the discourse. So see you next week.
Well, I just wanted to say goodbye real quick, and thank you, everybody. And yeah, we'll figure this all out. I'm sure we'll continue the discussion. And I wanted to also say, Colin, I'm going to go have some breakfast. And I would love to participate more in the mind mapping. And also there's a gentleman in our group named Carl, who is very, very good at that stuff. He works with the brain. So I'll signal over to him as well. So I just wanted to say thank you, everybody. Thank you, Heidi. And also, Heidi, if you want to work together with WordPress and stuff like that, please just private message me anytime.
Yes, thank you very much,
Thank you,
Joshua.
Sam. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Just to follow up on what Joshua said, and is it Heidi? Yes, Heidi. Yeah, you said you would like to learn the mind maps for your own use. That's a great idea, if it interests you. And it's not hard to do. I'll give you that confidence. Although it can be difficult if your screen is small. But my new phone and the programmers at Coggle are impressing me. I'll just put it there. That's a constraint I have. I would like it to be easy on the phone, and that is a goal. If my end product was going to be Google, it would have to be easy to use on the phone. but my end product is not Coggle, whatever they call it. Maybe using their programming interface might be part of my magic, and popping up these maps out of nowhere might be part of it, but to have a great big giant map that everybody has to know, that's something you do out of a labor of wanting to understand. And so that's why I would like to say that just knowing what's there on the map and being able to traverse the map, like Fleming said, that's 80% of it. So just having user feedback and saying, I like what you did here, I don't understand what you did there, I think you should do this, I think you should get rid of that. You know, that's really interesting, but that's more your own thing. That doesn't really have anything to do with the GCC. Why don't you put that in a blog post and put it back to your private map? Because you'll know that you'll be able to tell me as a GCC member about stuff off the main map, because it's confusing people. So it's a living document. I think it's a great idea to bring some gravity in, but it's just a stepping stone. It's just a mapping tool. And if other people, like Joshua said, he has a friend that knows all this mapping knowledge. Well, that's great and handy, but that's not what I'm after. It would be nice to have some people that could mentor other people, like you could learn it, and then you could show 2 friends and so on. And, you know, any tool you use that helps you navigate is good. And that's the thing here, navigation and gravity. That's what I'm trying to bring. So just understanding the map is great. So I'm going to have a meeting with Joshua, I guess, after this. And, you know, my signal to get to work with me is Messenger on Facebook. So if you send me a message on Facebook, I'll reply to you. And we can get in very tight sync there. So, yeah, I'll give you that. Anybody who wants to become part of this, and I want to kind of limit it to a small group so that we can keep it simple and not run into a rabbit hole, and then iterate to the next step where maybe, you know, you can show other people. So, and part of this is to do more and say less. So the less I have to say, the more I'm succeeding, and still actually communicating. I don't think I'll ever get to the point where it's just sign language and make a wink and a nod, but you know, we would like to get where we have that magic synergy when we know that the map is helping, or we know that what Doug is doing is helping, we know what Glenn is doing is helping. Anyway, I think we all know this before. It's nothing new, but the map is an overview, I think, that helps guide and navigate people. Gravity, and it's just a natural thing for me to want to do as well. So I'll just leave that there.
Lynn, you are the one with the spider web in Facebook.
Yes, I'm on the phone. Yeah, how do we do that? You should be able to get me quite easily by just following the community and clicking the icon and sending.
Yeah, I do have you as friend here, so I can send you a message.
Yeah, you can just use that. Yeah, I talk to the people I know.
Okay, guys, I want to go. Thank you very much, and I think as we are starting to do more, it evolves, and then we see what we need to do. So, and I love little groups, to work in little groups, because I think when we are 3 or 4 people, then things get done more quickly and easily.
And that's actually my ask for my checkout, is to get a little group for me, and it's, again, organically happening. So I think it's almost like once you get in sync with what it is you're supposed to do, things start to happen for you, and you worry less about, you know, you get to know your people. I'm just learning my people, so the governance is an issue for me. But as for technology, money issue, that's another type of issue. So, you know, we can, on a mind map, did you say you had psychology, sociology? Because, you know, that type of I think experts are the next level. We can, you know, try to bring in experts who can really, do that kind of thing. And there's lots of experts. I'm hoping it'll grow, and we keep it simple, and I let other people help me make it make sense. And then, people like Sam and Tammy are going to say, this is working really well. I think, we should do a retrospective on this section or something, or make a document about something. I have no idea, but thank you very much. Definitely.
Heidi, you're not wearing headphones, and I can hear Colin coming through your speaker.
I normally have a different computer, but I don't have internet at the moment, and so I'm staying on Chromebook, and so it's.
I didn't say that. I said I can hear you. I can hear Colin. I can hear Colin double twice because his voice is coming through your microphone. Because you've got a speaker going in the room.
Yeah, in the computer. Yeah.
And this is brand new. Oh no, it's not. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, now you're muted, and it's gone away. And I would check out anyway while I'm on the air. I've noticed that when there's a whiff, there's a slight smell of faint whiff of profit in the air. The business people with the nuance data claim big dollar signs in their eyes. The wolves are at the door. They jump in looking for somewhere to make a profit. And there's lots of them around. We know they're around. And that's why I love the idea of the map so much, because it allows us to get a view of what's going on. Thanks, Colin. I'll check out.
So I'll leave with just one thought, and that is the idea of maps is definitely very useful. I think it definitely can serve as a layout of the territory. And for that reason, I actually encourage everyone to create maps. I don't think there's any single map that actually is quote unquote official. And certainly without a we, I don't think we're even ready to say that. But the more of us give our own perspective on what exists and where to find things, the more alternate paths there are, and the richer this whole environment looks and feels to me. So I would encourage us all to do mapping, okay? And not rely on someone else. Participate as you enjoy, and then call it your own, if you want to co-create it. But I think, everybody creating maps is a good thing. Okay, I'll just sign out with that. Thanks all.
Bye-bye.